So,
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to our December 2nd council meeting. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call.
Mr. Olja?
Here.
Mr. Menegini?
here.
Dr. Hayes? Mr. Gottstein?
Here.
Mr. Ball?
Here.
Dr. Hayes had mentioned that he was going to be out of town this evening, so can we have a motion to excuse him?
I'll make the motion, we excuse Dr. Paul.
Second.
Motion made by Lee, supported by Chris. Roll call.
Mr. Menegini?
Yes.
Mr. Gottstein?
Yes.
Mr. Ball?
Yep.
Mr. Olja?
Yes. Approval of the minutes, the regular meeting of November 18th, 2013. Any additions or corrections? I've got one correction. On the second page, on the approval of the minutes and approval of the manifest, my name is spelled wrong.
There's no further change. I'll make a motion. We accept them as they stand.
Is there support?
Second.
Motion made by George, supported by Chris. Roll call.
Mr. Gottstein?
Yes.
Mr. Ball?
Yes.
Mr. Olja?
Yes.
Mr. Menegini?
Yes.
Approval manifest 2013-23 in the amount of $248,814.37. George, any questions?
Jeremy, I'd like to let the rest of the council, I've got a number of questions.
Okay.
So what I'd like to have.
Okay, I'll come back to you then.
I'm being new here. I'm sure there's a bunch of things that are going to come around that's been passed that I'm not aware of, so I'm going to have a lot of questions. So.
Okay, I'll come back to you.
Okay, fine, thank you.
Chris?
Page 3, under electric, a couple questions. Joe, utilities, sales, and service for $942. I think we had a couple charges from them last manifest or the manifest before that.
Yes,
Is this
the charge on this time was a second bill that I received. I wasn't aware that there was going to be two separate invoices for the electrical contact
okay?
for that truck. That's what that was for.
Okay. And that's all being submitted to insurance.
Yes, in fact, we talked about it today, but I think the total didn't meet the deductible.
Oh, okay.
So,
Okay. Also under electric, the Eaton study that we had.
The 1295.
Yeah, I know we had approved that. Are we going to have a report as far as?
Yeah, I have it. I have a report. It's like 300 pages.
Okay, I'll have a summary.
If you recall, this is a study that was done to find out how the hydro reacts to the system and how we could put communications in play over the fiber, put midstream reclosers for the redundancy that we've been working on for about 3.5 to 4 years now. I've been working with the Eaton study now and Cooper and Dave Krause and Border States Electric, and our target date is to have this completed by July of this summer,
Okay.
this fiscal year. Basically what it came down to in a nutshell was that we had a half a second time to clear any faults on the line before the hydro would react and drop off. A half a second is more than enough time to get the communications on the fiber talking and sectionalizing that piece of line. So it looks like it's a go. It's just a matter of getting the right communications in place.
Is it going to require purchasing and installing more equipment, or can we use what we currently have and just
No, I have money in the budget to cover 2 more reclosures, which have not been purchased yet, and then the communication equipment required on those reclosures, and then also cover any fiber optic splicing, putting boxes on the pole that needs to be done and switches at those locations.
Okay.
So that's all budgeted for.
Okay. That's all I had.
Lee?
Yeah, that, one question was taken care of there, but on page one, first item, 8 copy 2014 code ordinance update fee, 5,100. Isn't that a little high?
Well, that's because of the zoning code. We had a number of revisions, and when we redo the zoning code, or make those revisions, that is high, compared to other ordinances that get codified. Because we had a major revision.
But now, and this is a one-shot deal on this.
This is a one-shot deal. Every time we look at the zoning code, if there's not a major revision, it should be a lot less. But this one had quite a few pages. This is also one that we're going to be talking with the township and have some shared costs on.
Okay. And under Gulf Fund, I'm sure that's a misprint, 4 bales of straw for $80. I just bought a bale for 4.
Well, it might be some description issues.
Well, 4 bales straw for clubhouse sewer line.
Yeah, but there might be something else on that bill. We'll have to
Yeah,
double check
okay.
that.
Well, I hope there is.
Yeah.
And then one other item here, under payroll and related expenses. This came up a month ago, and this was something that I could have been wrong on. I thought the Gulf Fund, they always had their credit card charge separate, but maybe I misunderstood it, and last time it's coming out of the regular, our fund, or is that strictly coming out of the Gulf Fund? Because we've got ours under control now, where the general fund, it was 286 charge card fees, and we collected 268, so that's no big deal. But this 359 on there, are we paying for that, or is that actually coming out of the Gulf Fund?
It's coming out of the Gulf Fund, but it's the city's Gulf Fund, not the Gulf Commission. It's our Gulf Fund for memberships, green fees that are being paid out there. Now, we decided to start implementing the fee.
That 1.5%,
But
whatever.
it was right at the end of October when we did that, or maybe even early November, and now they're closed for the winter.
So this will be,
You'll see that start to take place once
Okay.
they reopen in the spring.
okay, let's see. Yeah, that's all I have.
Okay, George. Oh, Chris, go ahead.
Okay. Just bear with me, like I said, because there's a lot of these questions that probably are, been answered and stuff that's been okayed by the previous council. I'm not too aware. On the financial here, the two $500 payments for Cyber Zone Midwest Data Service, is this something that we pay monthly? It looks like November, December here, 2 items.
Yeah, those are 2 separate months, happen to be billed at the same time. We decided to go with a monthly contract with them as opposed to the individual small 15-minute, 30-minute type of deals. We figured out what would be the right amount and have a consistent amount per month, because we call them quite a bit. So this is really getting off a metered service, so to speak, and getting on a maintenance deal.
What does this all cover, Ray? I mean,
Well, this
it's
covers
just-
all of the kind of questions that we have on our network, anything to do with our computers, our phone, the network side of our phone, so.
There was 3 $500 charges. There was the 2 for the monthly for November and December, and then there was a 500 for general network maintenance. Is that October or?
Must have been going back to October, because we started in October.
That's what I
So we
thought.
should pay 3 for this year.
It's just not labeled as October. in there,
Okay.
so.
Is, are these charges, Ray, included in, put it in with your monthly expenses, basically, how can I put this? For internet, are these added into our
No, this isn't part-
expenses?
This isn't part of the cable. This is just our network computer support here at City Hall and the rest of the operation. What we did with George was we went back to all of our bills over the last 2 to 3 years on computer support, where we had a metered service, or, you know, we paid every time we called them.
Yeah.
And we took an average to figure out what was the monthly cost, and that's how we came up with that figure. And Scott, Beck, and I are going back and forth on a monthly basis, reviewing the hours and reviewing the costs. So there's a lot of calls that go in for 5, 10, 15-minute fixes. in
Yeah,
our system.
okay, Ray, I kind of realize this is
Okay.
is something that's just ongoing, continuously.
Yeah.
And it's a monthly, basically a monthly expense every month. I guess my question, are these expenses added in or figured in to what we're charging for our computer and television and phone services?
Well, they would be covered under, you know, we would take all of our expenses and
Yeah,
figure out what we need to do to recover. So, you know, they're spread across the departments. It's not just cable, it's all
No,
departments.
I realize that. You're
they would be
saying
covered, and they're
basically you're
budgeted.
three, but these are all
Right.
thrown into the pie. I mean, when we, in a month, when we figure out, you know, are we making money or are we losing here on
Right.
these utilities?
And they're all budgeted, because we already account for an annual expense in computer support. So this is out of that annual expense, so it's all budgeted.
And George, there was another bid on this, and this was the low bid on this cyber zone support.
Okay. That's, I mean, 90% of my questions this month are going to be things that I, just out of curiosity, I guess to say. Joe, down on the bottom of that same page, or on page 1, 2 security lights for DPW electric. Are these installations, or are these utility lights bought for something?
They're replacements for their wall pack lights,
Yeah.
high-pressure sodium lights that over the years have deteriorated on the buildings, and there's no security lighting. So we've been replacing those lights on the buildings.
Is that $240 a piece? That's
Yes, they're expensive, yes.
okay. Page 2. Railroad or down here, capital projects, the Railroad Avenue for Coleman Engineering, $4,700 and some dollars. I'm assuming this is engineering.
Yep, that's
Is this
engineering.
a final payment, Ray, of stuff that was
No.
done here, or?
No, it's ongoing. It's close though, I mean, but they still have field work to do.
Okay.
But it'll be the final.
This is part of the upcoming project.
Yeah, that's
For
part of the
next year,
upcoming
okay.
project. for upcoming.
Okay, fine. And right down the bottom page, cable and television, $5,700, almost $800 for telephone system operations. Can somebody kind of explain that a little bit? For November?
That's us paying them for our subscribers, our telephone subscribers. We pay them, and then we turn around and bill our customers. We pay them monthly, George, on that.
It's a monthly cost too?
Yeah.
All right, so that should be every month, we should
Yep,
be
you're
seeing
gonna
that?
see it. That's suite, whenever you see Suite 201, that's us paying for a phone system.
Okay. Okay. Okay, the next page, on electric utilities, down on the lower part of the column. Okay, let's go up in the middle there, this Kaiser Electric Unit 2 oil cooler adjustment for almost $1,100. Are we still having problems with them coolers, Joe?
Unit number 2 that we just put into service
Okay,
this past spring,
yeah,
it was all adjusted when the unit was fairly warm, the oil coolers. I got to regress just a little bit in what I'm telling you. Those motors have a variable frequency drive on them, okay?
yeah, yeah.
And in the reservoir on top of the thrust bearing, you remember the big thrust bearing the journal bearing we put in? There's an oil reservoir on top. And in that oil reservoir, there's float sensors. And then in order to save electricity, depending on where the oil level is in that reservoir, tells the motor to either speed up or slow down on pumping oil to the bearing. Okay. It's kind of tricky to get it right. And as the temperature changes with oil, you're aware it gets, obviously it gets thicker, slows down. It dropped very cold in the hydro building.
Yeah,
And the unit was shutting itself off because it thought it was out of oil. It really wasn't. But, so we had to come in and readjust it.
wouldn't you think that this should be kind of under installation? I mean, getting
Well,
the bugs out, that this should be warranty work? I don't want to put you on the spot, but I mean, here we've got a brand new unit sitting in there and you know you're going to need.
That's I don't know, it's kind of a touchy situation that we had with them with the penalties that we assessed them.
Okay.
And
I-
if we,
that's-
I'd rather discuss that.
No,
it
I know where you're
further
coming from.
with the
That's-
council.
That's fine, I know where you're coming from.
Yep.
Okay, down just a little bit further, okay, again, Kaiser, for substation line order service, $1,500.
Krause.
Or
that's-
Krause, I'm
That's
sorry,
Krause
Krause.
Power Engineering.
Yes.
George, we're still not, we're almost
Okay,
complete.
let's drop on that one because I think that this will come up for discussion later on, on this contract here. I got a lot of questions after.
On the miscellaneous service contract that we're
Yes.
gonna be talking about? Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Okay. Down in the middle of the page on the Gulf service again, $134 for irrigation pump computer service for the month of December. Why are we paying for irrigation service in December?
Well, it's probably computer work, and we do have, I believe we have a monthly contract with them, don't we?
Yes.
Yeah,
We pay that year-round.
yeah, so it's a maintenance agreement that we have with Toro for that's their system. So it's not really relevant on weather or, it's just an agreement that we have for an annual. So,
Okay, next page. Under wastewater need and hunt, that $33,000. RD project, now is this something that's coming up, Ray, I'm assuming, or?
well, we've been talking about this project for 6 years.
Yes, I agree.
We're finalizing the work on the wastewater phase of that project. There's some work that we're also doing on the collection side. So from on the plant side, we're coming to a conclusion. We do have some work that we have to do to get up to the spring where we're going to finalize the paperwork with rural development. So they're at like what, 70% on the engineering, I think? Because we got a 65% engineering review for the plant.
Is that grant look good?
Well, the project is a goal.
It is.
In the wastewater side, there's no grant component. It's just a loan only. On the second project, that's where we have a grant, and we did get a letter confirming our application and the grant component of it. So I think it looks good on the second project once they get that going. Because remember, we took the projects and we split them into two,
Yeah.
just so we could get to this point.
What was the final decision on splitting that? Probably, I don't know if, who else in the council might be aware of this now, this is going back 3 years.
Yeah.
Where Bruce didn't know if we had to combine the streets and the water or separate them. What was the final decision on
Yeah,
this?
that decision was that we were gonna combine the water and the sewer for the streets component. So you have the water project is gonna combine with the phase 2 of the streets. And The first phase, which is the wastewater plant, that's where we're going to pay off the previous loan. It's a small loan. We're gonna refinance that, and the township is paying off their portion. And then that's where we have dissolved the utilities authority.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, fine. And just then down on the water fund, this Michigan Department of Environmental water supplement fees for $1,200.
That's our testing. We have to do some water quality tests. And we had to run a resample on that.
And it costs $1,200 for testing?
Yeah. I believe I'm right, am I? Aren't I?
That might be, there's an annual fee we pay. That might be that.
Oh, you think that's?
Yeah, let us check on it to
It's
get back on
it's
that.
listed as 2014.
Because it says 2014, that's making me think that it might be that annual fee we pay.
Oh, we've run into a number of costs over the last month, so I've been going back and forth between some of them.
We can check on that.
We'll check on that, George.
Okay,
We'll
would
let you
you?
know.
And also, this is American Water Works Association membership, evidently for you, Ray?
Yeah, I've run into this since I've been here. You know, when I started, I was down at the,
Yeah.
down in the shop. And when they set up, we had a number of memberships. And somehow they do this, the way they do it is they have a main membership and they have supplementary memberships. And so when I moved into this position, I wanted that transferred over. I remember Carl was here and I wanted him to transfer it over, the main, and it was a bear to do that. So it's under my name. There's a couple of supplementaries that go with it, but they have a real strange way of how they do it. So I just kept it under my name because it was.
Evidently David is,
Yeah, David and Joe, there's a couple of supplementaries. I think you even see John Zanone's name still on here. You know, it might be in their system somewhere. So the thing is that the main membership, you know, when I tried to kind of get that canceled out, it was kind of complicated mess in the paper.
yeah. Okay, and then on the last page here, these three credit card bills are evidently, they're all from you there, Mr. Anderson. On civil engineering memberships,
Yeah.
is this something, this, you know, we always ask all the employees to give a little bit here all the time when we, on union negotiating.
Yep.
Is this in your contract that
Yep.
we pick up all these?
Yep.
Is it?
Yep.
Could I see a copy of it?
Sure. Absolutely.
Okay. And, you know, like I said, we ask the employees to give, and I don't see why management can't do a little bit of the same thing on some of these projects, so I guess that's about all. Just Mary or whoever, if you can just, on these three unit here.
Well, it says right in
In
my
the fall
contract.
conference, is that, do we get, you get reimbursed on these, or the last item there? MMEA Fall Conference expenses?
Yeah, I get reimbursed. I go to the conference.
Yeah.
I'm a board member.
Do you get reimbursed, or does the city get reimbursed for your expenses, or no?
No, not from the MMEA. That's the annual fall conference.
I know there's always some, listening to all the shows there, when Joe goes to these things, these issues keep coming up, so I think we should, you know, make the playing field even here if we're gonna pick out one.
I've never asked you guys, I've always asked you if you think it was a benefit for me to be on a board of directors of
No,
anything.
I agree.
And
I agree, Ray.
we were
I'm
very
just-
upfront about my being
Just,
on this board.
wanna make sure that the fields are level for everybody. That's my point.
That's fine.
Okay, I guess that's about all I have.
Okay, looking for a motion to approve.
Actually, I have one more question. On the last page, there's two, under wastewater and water, the AT&T charge. Are those for those monitoring lines at the lift stations that we're paying for yet? Or why do we have phone lines for wastewater and
Wastewater, Chris, is the auto dialer. And it's the same, well,
That monthly phone charges for 563-7502 show up on a number of departments, not just those two.
Well, there's different numbers billed underneath that account.
Yeah, I know, but this one, that 563-7502, it shows up on the manifest here under at least 3 or 4 accounts.
Yeah.
You just
yeah,
divided it.
there's multiple accounts underneath that. But those are just those auto dialer lines?
7502? 7502 is our fax line.
is our fact,
That's just the,
That's the main number.
That's the main
everything's
fax.
Yeah,
billed.
it'll show up on everything.
That's your
because
billing
it's-
number.
Right,
It's our
that's
billing
our
number,
number.
yeah.
But I know we had talked about with the fiber and everything, trying to get off.
well, with the instance now with the water department, we're real close to getting rid of that.
Okay,
That should be within another, say, 2 months, we should be able to get rid of that.
really, okay,
Yeah, we're almost completed with that automation project.
okay,
There's just some computer work that needs to be done yet.
okay, that's all I have then.
For a motion to approve manifest 2013-23.
I'll make a motion, we approve manifest 2013-23 in the amount of $248,814.37.
Second?
Motion made by Lee, supported by Chris. Roll call.
Mr. Ball?
Yes.
Mr. Oja?
Yes.
Mr. Menegini?
Yes.
Mr. Gotstein?
Yes.
Does anyone from the audience wish to address the council on the minutes, manifest, or any agenda item? If you do, please come up to the podium, state your name and address for the record. If not, there'll be a further time for comment on any subject at the end of the meeting. Okay, this evening, we only have one thing on communications, and that's approval, KPE miscellaneous engineering services. Mr. Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is an annual expense that we try to budget for. It's engineering support from Mr. Dave Krause of KPE. He's been with us a long time, handling our electrical engineering needs. Joe, I don't know if you have any other further comments to it, but this is something pretty standard we go through every year.
Yeah, I can add just a little bit to that, Ray, because I think it's important that they know that the number that you would be approving tonight, $7,000, is not a number that gets spent every year. It's a number that we target and say, within reason, and the electric utility, the size we are, and the hydro, what could we spend in miscellaneous service? We came up with that number about 4 years ago. We've been running it since then. And we use $7,000 as a reference point. That doesn't mean we spend it. We just get charged per his hourly rates, up to $7,000 if I need it for his services. And if we were to exceed the $7,000 mark, I would come back to you and do a change order. Historically, over the years that we've been doing this, last fiscal year was the most I spent in that particular line item, and that was $3,500 of the $7,000. I've never spent the full $7,000. I had an issue at the hydro last year that I needed his assistance with, and then a couple fuse coordination issues.
Do we get credit for that money then, Joe? I mean, do we get it back? Or is just?
No, it's just,
This is a not to exceed.
it's just a,
Up to exceed, and you only pay the bills
right,
that you're
it's
charged.
a not to exceed $7,000,
Okay, this
and
$1,500,
as I need him,
yeah, this $1,500 that we paid here on the
Right.
manifest, where does that
this is
come?
not on the miscellaneous service. We have several little things going on with David yet that are still from the system, like, you asked about that hydro substation. It's not 100% complete yet. Remember the little control house that was sitting right here?
Yeah.
We picked that up and moved it down to the hydro sub.
Yeah,
And we have to take the controls that operate that substation. Right now, currently, they're on the poles inside the sub. So if there was a fault out on the line, we would have to go inside the fence and flip the switch, and you'd be standing right next to the transformer 5 feet away to re-energize it. It's very dangerous to do that. If there's a fault in the transformer, it could blow up and you'd be gone. So we put the house down there. Now we want to take the controls that are on the poles and move them into the house. So we re-energize from inside of a steel building, and that reduces the risk of any casualties when we're working in the area. And the money's all budgeted for that. It's kind of like an ongoing little project till we get it done. There's not a lot left to do, and it gets wrapped up with this, what Chris was asking about, with this fiber optic. Once that's complete, this whole thing will be wrapped up, and you won't see that stuff anymore.
Okay.
Anything else, George?
No.
Any other questions about the Krause contract, the approval of the 7,000? If not, I'm looking for a motion.
I'll make a motion that we pay or allow $7,000 for KPE, Dave Krause, miscellaneous engineering service.
Second.
Motion made by George, supported by Chris. Roll call.
Mr. Oja?
Yes.
Mr. Menachini?
Yes.
Mr. Gottstein?
Yes.
Mr. Ball?
Yes.
And that's the end of our meeting. Does anyone from the audience wish to address the council on any subject? If you do, please come up to the podium, state your name and address for the record. You'll have 5 minutes. Ace, since you're the audience, you want to? Okay. Lee?
Oh, I got a few items here. I keep getting the feeling that we're getting the short end of the stick. I see we got a nice thank you from the Economic Development for area partnership. We didn't pay the full amount. As far as I'm concerned, we don't plan on paying the full amount. And I started checking into this a little bit. They're charging us the same as Kingsford and Iron Mountain, which we all knew. But there's 461 members, either organizations, businesses, groups, whatever you want to call them, in the Tri-County area, because I noticed a couple of these people were from Florence. So it'd be Dickinson County and Florence and a few from Iron County. There's 461 members. 26 of these are not from Norway. There's 10 on the board of directors, 1 from Norway. So that automatically tells me right there we shouldn't be paying the same as Iron Mountain and the same as Kingsford. And what I understand on these individual membership, it goes by how many employees you have. So what the cheapest is, I don't know, but I was told it's pretty close to $200 a pop from all these organizations. And wondering, Ray, has there been any movement at all as to them coming down to talk to us again?
I've mentioned that again. I do have, managers did get together to have this conversation. I have some information that I was going to work with in December here to deal with SEV. I think the numbers that you're referring to are from the chamber side. There's a different set of bylaws between the chamber and the EDA, because when the partnership was put together, it was actually put together 3 separate organizations.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think I got all these
Yeah.
out of here.
And that's,
Dickinson Area Partnership Membership and Resource Guide.
Yep, and that majority of what comes through there is generated through the chamber. So, you know, the EDA has a higher membership fee than what you see on the chamber side. The chamber's memberships is based on employees. So,
Okay.
you know, we tried to go to like Verso and some of the larger companies, but in order for them to sit on the EDA board, they would actually have to pay more than what they would pay for a chamber membership. And the deal of being in a partnership is that if you're in one, then you're basically a partnership member, which is benefits of all. So we're in the EDA, we don't have to pay a separate chamber membership, we get chamber benefits. Now, what I wanted to do, or I wanted to point out, in that discussion with the other managers and then ultimately with the county, because I think the county has a huge role in this discussion, is that, you know, if you look at our SCVs, we're probably, we're gonna pay less. Writing is actually the one that is gonna pay the most. But there's a percentage, proportional percentage that I wanted to lay out to show what we could do. And I think the county's gonna have to pay more in that scenario.
Well, I'm not interested in them paying more. We should be paying less.
Yeah, the problem we have though is that if they have a revenue stream of say $30,000 from the municipalities, you know, they're gonna have to take less overall revenue, or they're gonna have to either take less overall revenue, or that revenue is gonna have to be made up in, you know, from somebody else. So, I mean, that's really, I guess, how they're gonna have to look at it.
Well, like I said, as far as I'm concerned, we're getting the short end of the stick, and I think there's a few other council members that'll agree with me on that. And just a little note here, one other thing, on our latest renewable energy program from WPPI Energy. On the back page, it's got from the locally owned member utilities serving everybody but Norway.
Did they miss our name on it?
It's not on there.
I didn't catch it, but I'll bring it to their attention.
I don't know, maybe it's not doing us much good to have you on that board? Okay, that's all I have.
Chris?
I was gonna echo the same thing that Lee brought up with the partnership, just kind of seeing where we're at and if we have any news going forward. I think it would be good that obviously they're not coming up with any new ideas, so if we can propose something, Mr. Anderson has a pricing structure that we can propose, I think it's a start. Hopefully we can get something worked out with all the municipalities. That's all.
George?
I agree 100% with both Lee and Chris. I totally have been kind of listening to this going on for the last couple of years. I know.
We were even
come up
talking
for
about this
discussion
last time you were
year
on council.
on the same item, and I agree 100% that something should be done on, you know, somebody else should be picking up the whatever. Joe, I noticed in the letter here that came back that there's been a rate change. Could you kind of update us for WPI? I know it's a long, complicated situation.
It's all formulas, but
I realize.
it equates to a rate increase
Just a
to,
real short, condensed version,
Yes,
because
yes.
nobody's going to understand it anyhow.
no,
2 minutes.
1.8% increase to us in wholesale rates.
No, that is
What it
to
equates
us,
to.
or,
That's to us. That's to the electric utility fund that the city has. 1.8% to buy power from them,
we have to pay more or less?
more.
Okay.
And that's on top of the 2%, roughly 2% increase we figured. Their fiscal year runs separate, different than ours. Theirs is a yearly fiscal year. Sure.
So it doesn't coincide with us. We have a 6-month lap, and it doesn't work out real well, but it's the best that we can do.
But for what we had estimated, the
At
increase was gonna be.
2%, the last time we raised them,
Okay,
was for the last year.
okay.
Now it's going up another 1.8%, and so we'll be talking about it
Gotcha.
at budget time again. Yes.
I don't know how the council feels on some of this stuff, but so we don't get into a lot of arguments down the line. I am 100%, if something like this comes up, that we jump on it immediately. If there's a rate increase that has to take effect, that it's taken care of now. Not proclaim and let it go and build up. Pretty soon you're up to 3 cents. Oh geez, now we've got to raise it 6. I'm sure it's much easier to digest a half a cent or anything along the line than letting this thing slide and picking up 2 or 3 cents at one crack here. I think a lot of people understand it a lot better too. That's my own personal opinion. But
Well, and that's what the council did with the last budget.
Last two.
It had went up, the last two budgets, it had went up small, so we bumped it up small to stay up like that.
Great, great. Okay, there's a number of things that, Jeremy, I would like to see something put in place at the end of each council meeting. Just for an example, last week when we had, or 2 weeks ago when we had Scott here, the money that we're losing on the bill collections and stuff like this, I would like to see something put in our package at the end of every month, that these things are continuously brought to our attention. Anything that of great importance, so that it's not just at the end of the meeting, it's forgotten about, filed and under G and garbage and forgotten about until we're up over our heads. And then, oh geez, it's been misplaced and never been looked into or taken care of. So I would, Trish or Mary or Ray, whoever puts our meetings together, the matters that I feel, going back to the minutes or something, if you feel that these things are rather important, that a little, at the end of our regular meeting, that little note is put in there of the things that should be brought to our attention immediately after every meeting. I know it sounds like a pain in the butt, but that way it's addressed continuously and not forgotten about. All this stuff seems just, well, let it slide, and pretty soon we're up over our heads in it. Joe, have you addressed more on them alleys? This just come into my mind. Remember the water that was leaking behind the American Legion and at Eblings? Was that matter addressed ever with Lawrence?
I did bring it up with Scott. He didn't have a real good answer for me. It's kind of the finger pointing game of who set the grades. You know,
Well-
he'll go Coleman, and then when I talk to Coleman, well, Moran kind of set the grades and the way they sloped it. So I haven't got a resolution at this point yet, but I'll keep on
Well, okay, here's what's gonna happen. And who's gonna pick up the bills on these things? Now, you get a water storm or a rainstorm, you ain't gonna have much of, well, it's gonna continuously happen in the Legion. Because, I mean, even though when they did the alley, they blacked up against the building, and they
Yeah.
did put a beautiful curb in there, but the water runs, and it runs into the, still gets in and underneath that foundation someplace. So the water does not run down the center of the alley and go to the manhole. It runs over to the building and goes down in the building and comes into the kitchen. And the American Legion doesn't get used that much, so if we get a good rainstorm and we get a nice puddle of water in there and there's nobody around to clean it up or to bail it up or ball it up, and you got the same problem happening over at Eblings, and I was there when I seen the water come in. So I think right there's a case that let's get on it and let's get an answer right away.
Are you aware if it's still happening at Eblings? Because
No, I'm
we
not.
did address it.
Okay.
And they went and resealed it.
We had a couple
And nobody said any, I told Craig to get a hold of me if it continues.
Okay.
And he has not.
When they did the crack sealing job, George, we actually had them go over and do some sealing
Okay,
along the edge. So-
fine.
So-
No, Ray, as long as it's been addressed, that is
Yep.
my point.
I'm hoping
As long
we're-
as it's
we
been
haven't heard.
addressed and taken care of,
So
fine and dandy.
The only one that I know of that's not fixed yet is how the water's getting into the foundation after we did the alley work at the Legion.
Yeah, well, it comes in underneath the kitchen cabinets.
Yeah, and we looked at the road together, and we saw the way it was pitched, and they put the curb on it, but you're saying even with that little curb against the building, it's getting in somehow.
It's coming in there someplace.
You can take a clean water and dump it in that alley just outside the Legion back door. And if you have enough water, maybe 10 gallons, it'll run past the first storm sewer, It'll never get to the second one because it runs into that parking lot. That's the grading job that was done, and I had mentioned that before.
Okay. Joe and Ray, this is something that I would like to, I mentioned it to the guys over at Rick and David too, I mentioned. I believe Joe, I even talked to you about it. I'd like to see this put to a trial. If we could get a truck with a wing on it that could be borrowed or used for a snowstorm. Now, 2 years ago, I suggested this, so on our country roads and even in town, that they could go one pass up and down the streets and out in the country and be done with plowing snow. Now, they do it every place else. I don't know why we can't do it here. This is something that, like I said, I've mentioned to the guys. And the only, if we would have had enough foresight when the plows or the units were ordered, to order an extra valve bank, and I think, Joe, there is one put on that one truck with that or that spreader in the back.
Yeah, shortly, yeah.
That might have an extra valve bank on there.
I remember the conversation, George, shortly after we bought those 2 trucks. We actually had the manufacturer come, and we were looking at how to put a wing on it, but it was a structural support issue underneath to put the back supports for the wing on or something.
Yeah.
But I'll get some more answers for you, and we'll
Yes.
we'll get a
you know,
conclusion on it.
And time saving and material and just the whole ball of wax. I think it's something that we should look into and get some answers on. Also, Joe, something that been irritating me and really, I mentioned, I don't know how many times, these boulevards. I know I'm looking way far ahead, like 4 months. These boulevards all along the highways, why can't they be cut down? Some places you got 1 foot of sand that's been built up there over the years, cut down and reseeded. I mean, there's so much sand on these places that it's...
Would it be even worth seeding them though? I mean, they're only like this wide.
No,
Maybe we could-
they're 6 feet wide, Ray.
Depends on what side of the road you're on, Ray. The
Are you
the
talking
ones on the
about
north side of
down
US
here?
2?
Oh, down here, yeah.
Yeah,
On the east side of town.
Okay. Well, like on the west side when we talk, take them out and.
Yeah, no,
Even
on
if
the
you
west
put a
side.
cold patch, you'd be better
That-
off.
Completely different situation, Ray.
Yeah.
okay, I got a question that I don't have an answer for. I'm gonna throw it out there. If we did that, Ray, is that something that we would have to get pre-approved from MDOT because it's in the right-of-way?
Yeah.
And get them to agree to pay for it, or
Oh, they won't pay for it.
they won't pay for it?
No.
No.
But you still have to, it's in the right of way, so you would still have to get agreement. It's like sidewalks, paths, anything you do in the right of way.
Okay.
It would be part of your
So
permit.
they would approve it to give me a permit to do
Right.
it,
They won't pay for it.
but they're not gonna give us any money
They-
to do it.
You know, you could argue that what you're removing is winter sand from the highway.
Yeah,
You can overspend your budget that they approve every year, and maybe they would pay, but I doubt it if you go more than the budget. But what it might do is it might bump the number for the following year. You know, that's typically how that works with them.
I think the biggest hurdle, Ray, that you're gonna come into there is shutting down lane of traffic,
Yeah,
where you're gonna, and you know what they did? Like snow removal, when they pick it up, go and do it at night, so you know, avoid a lot of problems. But I think that's probably where the biggest hurdle is gonna be is,
yeah. If we can keep it down to one lane, and
Well,
we do incremental parts, then they probably won't have too much heartache.
you know, and really, if you went ahead and pulled the signs out, which there's maybe a sign on each block, no parking or whatever, there's probably a sign on each block, and go there at the grader and just cut it right down, pull it all out in the highway and pick it up, and, you know, it certainly don't appear to be that big of a job.
Okay.
But, and it would certainly improve the looks of the city by a long shot.
That's all sand,
It's all set.
just all sand, yeah.
You can't grow nothing on it, or, I guess that's about it, Jeremy. I don't have anything else.
The only two things I have are to remind everybody that the Santa Parade is Friday at 6, the fireworks start at 6 o'clock, the parade is after that. It's down here on Main Street, the parade starts at St. Mary's Church and comes past City Hall. And to also remind the public that the City Hall will be closed on Friday for an in-service day. DPW and the rest of the departments will be running, just the City Hall office will be closed. Joe?
I have no further comments.
Mary? Tricia? No. We have Larry sitting in for Jay this evening. Larry, do you have anything you can say? No comments, thank you. Brad?
Nope, I have nothing. Hope everybody had a happy Thanksgiving.
We have no closed session this evening, so I'm looking for a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion, we adjourn.
Motion made by Chris, supported by George. Roll call.
Mr. Menegini?
Yes.
Mr. Gottstein?
Yes.
Mr. Ball?
Yes.
Mr. Ogier?
Yes. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
2 minutes. I couldn't have set you up any better.